Welcome to our Performance Edge Weekly Wisdom, where spirit drive performance. Coach Soul here. Today we are going to discuss about burned out. Being burned out. How to avoid being burned out and how to defeat being burned out. So by the end of today's video, not only will you understand what is burnout and how to recognize it when you experience it, because there can be some ambiguity, but also you'll have an understanding of the top strategies to beat burnout suggested by the top expert. And most importantly, I will share with you the best practice that is a real root cause of burnout from a new understanding and a new lens understood since ancient Egypt, which will equip you to handle burnout as a master moving forward. Ready? Let's jump in. So let's talk about burnout. According to a recent article in Psychology Today, what does burnout feel like? This article points out that burnout emerges from two main factors: resources and value. So here we'll explore furthermore on many facets of burnout. We'll take it even further than that article. So after watching today's videos, not only will you understand what is burnout and how to recognize it when you experience it, which is important as a side note because burnout is not only related to work. For example, there are parental burnout, in case you might not know. But what's important is that second, in the video, you will understand the causes of burnout from the many subject matter perspective point of view. Then on the third instance, you will learn the most commonly accepted guidelines by the top expert in terms of how do you handle that burnout. And fourth, I will introduce you to a total new understanding of a root cause of burnout that is based on basic spirit indicators, which are far more reliable. And that was understood since ancient Egypt. So lastly, if you stick around in this video, I will teach you an effective strategy and technique you can use on a daily basis to help you calibrate yourself so you can anticipate burnout and defeat it before it's too late. So when you look at the situation, here is what we see. According to the Deloitte 2023 Workplace Wellbeing Report, they found out in their survey and report that 60% of employees and 64% of managers and 75% of the C-suite are seriously considering quitting their job for one that will better support their well-being. And according to a recent Psychology Today article, the data suggests that 51% of workers they have felt burnout at least once, and also that 77% of professionals they report feeling work-related burnout. What is burnout? So according to the World Health Organization, burnout is defined by an occupational phenomenon that is derived from chronic workplace stress and is characterized by 1, feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, and 2, increased mental distance from one's job or feeling of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and 3rd, reduced professional efficacy. Right, that's World Health Organization of defining burnout in 2023. Triangulate this with a definition from Psychology Today, which says burnout is a state of emotional, mental, and often physical exhaustion brought on by prolonged or repeated stress. Though it's most often caused by problems at work, it can also appear in other areas of life such as parenting, caretaking, or romantic relationships. So those definitions, I really want to make sure that we can triangulate them, because when you understand that, sometimes, people think of burnout only at work, but we're gonna extend here so that you understand when it impacts your life. But mainly it's work related, but we'll look at all. So how do you recognize the symptoms of burnout? How do you know if you are burnout? Yes, you ask yourself question. Do you have, for example, physical and mental exhaustion? Do you have a sense of dread about work? Or do you have frequent feeling of cynicism, anger, or irritability? Right? Those are key signs of burnout. And so the question is, what is the difference between stress and burnout? By definition, burnout is that extended period of stress that feels as though it cannot be improved, right? Because if stress is short-lived or tied to a specific goal, it is most likely not harmful. But if it's never-ending and comes with feelings of emptiness, apathy, and hopelessness, it may lead to burnout. Right, so really, the simplest gauge you can ask yourself to know if you burn out is ask yourself, are you emotionally or physically or cognitively drained? That's the first question. Or, professionally or personally, do you begin to feel resentful and trapped by your work, by your conditions, by your relationship? Or even sometimes at work, do you feel increasingly behind, right? Because the three big determinants of burnout are emotional exhaustion, reduced accomplishment, again, depersonalization, which is basically growing bitter and growing cynical about the people you are supposed to care enough so you can serve them, right? So the key here is that burnout is really thought to emerge due to main factors, right? Resources and value, according to the article that really prompted me to really share this with you. So what I'm going to add, deeper layer, that these two main factors, that they say resources and value, I will share with you in few minutes more layers to that. But according to the expert, it's important to understand what causes burnout, right? So because burnout is not simply a result of working long hours or juggling too many tasks, right? Those causes are not only the root cause, because both, yes, those they play a role, right? The cynicism, the depression, and the lethargy that are characteristics of burnout, they most often occur when a person is not in control of a job or how it's carried out at work, right, or home, right? Or if a person is asked to complete tasks that conflict with their values, right? So those are really some of the root cause from the expert perspective. And so that's really important. So how to deal with burnout? The expert that we're going to look at two aspects. One from a work-related perspective, how to deal with it, which will be, the most of it. And then we look at the non-work-related burnout as well, that I'm really glad I'm going to bring here to your attention. So when you look at the work-related burnout, there is a leading pioneers in burnout research. And it's Dr. Christina Maslach from Berkeley University and Michael Leaders. It measures all three components of burnout, right? We talked about the high exhaustion, the high cynicism, and low professional efficacy. So based on the work, only 20% of workers fit this profile. So in that, the way to deal with it, there an article from Ellen Hendrickson that says 7 ways to recover from burnout. So according to a foremost expert in the field, work problems, they can be boiled down to 6 things, which are, first one, workload. How much workload do you have? That put a stressor. Control is number 2. How much do you feel in control? Or rather the lack of, right? And number 3 is rewards. Do you have little rewards for the job, your task you perform, or you have none, or right? What is the ratio of your perception? And also fairness is am I being compensated fairly, or am I being treated fairly? Community, is there a sense of community into helping me perform my task? And last is a sense of values. Are you working against your values, or is a company preaching something and we're not really adhering to that? So those 6 things really are what affect work problems, right? So according to Dr. Christina Maslach. So now, based on that, the article from Ellen suggests 7 ways to recover from burnout. 1, start with your body. Look at where you feel. Take care of your body. Self-care. 2nd, pinpoint which of the 6 areas are causing your problems. Right? We talk about the workload, the control, the fairness, the community, the values, the reward, right? And also, so now number 3 suggested is look to the future. Do you have perspective about what work could be? Number 4, try to make a better match. A better match meaning that what you're doing is fitting with your strengths and weaknesses, so that you use your strength into where you can perform as best. Number 5, if improving your current job doesn't work, make some big decisions, which could be either to leave or really make some serious decision or change department, whatever you can do that fits. Number 6, delegate, right? If you think that you have to do it all, think about again how you can delegate, right? If that possibility is there. Number 7, diversify your time, right? So those are really 7 quick ways to recover from burnout. And just to give you a little umbrella of options, you can also have a sense of purpose. Having an impact on others or feeling as if you are making an impact, will help you also, defeat that feeling of burnout, because often meaningfulness, right, can counteract the negative aspect of a job, right? So other include like autonomy or a hard challenge, right? What you can also do to help defeat burnout, according to some of the experts, is nurturing your relationship in a way that you adopt self-care habits, right? Focusing on hobbies outside of work, and that will help you restore your sense of self and mitigate stress. The other thing at work, that's scheduling regular break. Starting and stopping at set times, minimizing multitasking can all help, basically, boundaries and reduce feeling of burnout. So question to ask yourself, how you can improve your work-life balance, right? And so here, self-care is an effective weapon in a fight against burnout, because research shows that though self-care looks different for everyone, common strategy can include yoga, mindfulness, meditation, massage, exercising, dietary changes, or practicing self-compassion. So all those are really great ways you can use to really equip yourself. Now, when burnout is not caused by work, let's talk about that. Because jobs are not the only source of chronic stresses that cause burnout. For example, parental burnout or relationship burnout or caregiver burnout, they also exist. But however, they're less well known than the work career stress burnout. Mainly why? Because stereotypes and stigma around that, particularly related to parenting, right, can make those suffering from non-work related burnout, can make them feel as if they are to blame for their challenges, right? And as a result, they often hide their struggle from others. So let's talk briefly about the parental burnout. Because some parents feel that if their kids make them feel burnout, that equates to being bad parent. That idea that only bad parents get burnout is a harmful myth. Because parenting is really rewarding, but it's also demanding and challenging. And parents must balance, outside responsibilities, work schedules, their own well-being, and potentially, child's special needs. So in many cases, without adequate support, right? what, parents can be burned out, and there is no shame into recognizing that. And so, or caring for a child with special needs or aging parents may trigger burnout, right? Caregiver burnout, looking at older parents, right? Because signs for you will be including fatigue, frequent crying spells, right? And feeling of helplessness or anger or frustration toward the person you care. So taking care of your own health and asking for help can provide relief. Another burnout that's not well known is romantic burnout. So you got to ask yourself, is your relationship so draining? Is your romantic relationship, if it can be taxing as a full-time job and may cause you similar feelings of burnout, right? You need to look at that. If you don't look forward to seeing your partner, are you feeling cynical about your future and blaming your partner for whatever goes wrong? Or are you even often fantasizing about leaving your relationship, right? So all those are a sign of burnout. So here, the key thing in summary I want to circle back is that, like they suggested, you look at all these umbrellas that can be summed up, according to experts, to resources, right? As one of the major, pillar. So burnout is more likely to happen when one has too many jobs demand and too few job resources, right? Supply versus demand. So in a way, you feel like as though you are being tasked with too much. So whether it's in a relationship or, caring for, a loved one, right? Or it's at work, that's really the same feeling. If you feel that you are being tasked with too much versus what you can give. The second pillar that, if you look at it, is you feel as though your value do not align with your organization, or that the organization's stated value do not match those in actions. So when you look at it in summary, the article brings forth that high-level view, and it's important, and I'm going to develop and give you different perspective that will allow you to really get a grip on this. So, but before we move forward, it's important to see that the current result in data are showing that the burnout is not decreasing. In fact, according to an article, recent studies of over 10,000 full-time desk-based workers, out of those, 48% said they feel drained. And those are people aged between 18 and 29 years old. And for the one aged 30 and up, there 40% of people say that they feel drained. And out of those numbers, 46% of women, they reported a higher level of burnout compared to men, which were at 37%. So when you look at the data, and according to another article from Dr. Donald E. Rijo, in that article about, you can see, even under the best circumstances, burnout is widespread. So in that, some data suggests that more than half of U.S. workers have experienced burnout at least once in their lives, right? And 77% of professionals report work-related burnout. So why is that? Why is that important? It's important because these numbers are not getting better. And the reality is that even though these strategies help in the short term, they do not address the root causes. So the expert, they recognize themselves from a stress, like sharing with you a stress and resilience expert, saying when people ask, how do I recover from burnout? They say it's one of the most frequent questions I'm asked, and I find it to be one of the most difficult to answer. And the experts say, why? Because each person's experience with which burnout is unique, and their recovery will be unique as well. So when you look at all this expert giving us the tools, they are helpful. But the reality is that they are shortcoming. So we need to ask ourselves, why it's not working? What are the limitations? And well, it's because of the lack of understanding. And there is a need for a new paradigm because the solution lies in understanding a new paradigm that was understood since ancient Egypt. And I talk about that. And basically, you can watch my video, but the Quantum Door is a spirit elevation platform system that equips people to move them from being rigid, from being stuck, from being overwhelmed, to move them into being effectively in the flow, in the ease state of optimal performance. So that's really the pillar of a Quantum Door. So you might be asking, that's why you need new fundamentals, and that's where the Quantum Door comes in. So here is the first fundamental that will change your reality if you really understand and grasp this. Your reality is spirit into form. I repeat, your reality is spirit into form. So it is important, and I'm going to share this with you so you understand what I mean by that. Because what appears as a burnout is in fact an energy constriction. Energy constriction means a misalignment between your authentic desire, your spirit desire to express itself, versus your reality you are experiencing. So the constriction or the burnout you feel is a reflection of a gap between your authentic desires versus the reality you are experiencing. Because in between your reality, illusions are made up reflections. And that's where you don't have the correct reflection. So here is the good news. The good news is that it's a wake-up call when you get that. That means you need to handle it now. The bad news is if you don't, it's gonna get worse and escalate, turn into frustration, right, depression, and then the symptoms of breakup, divorce, and then suicides for some, unfortunately. So that's the first fundamental. Your reality is spirit into form. So the number two fundamental that the Quantum Door teaches is this is where I'm really excited, and it's really important. The Quantum Door teaches that there are three drivers that are at the core of driving the energies that animate our experiences. The three drivers are social conformity, self-projection, and resources. So those are the three drivers that the Quantum Door teaches. And here you can see some of the part overlapping with some of the traditional psychology, but we take it further, right? Because social conformity is to think of it as a pressure and the unseen, unspoken rules that are imposed on people by accepted society norms. And nowadays, as you can imagine, society with social media, 24 hours news cycle, conforming is elevated into critical levels. And for self-projection, it reflects the doubt, the fear that are inherited through your personalities and your weaknesses. And here I want to point that out because those are important. Because when the traditional expert talk about values, it's really high level and it's broad. But really here I'm in pinpointing social conformity and self-projection, you can really go surgically and figure out really where the illusions are coming from. And that's what really will free you. And I'll talk about that a little bit further down. But the number three that the Quantum Door driver teaches is resources, right? So resources are important, right? It's especially if there is a perception of scarcity, right? It's the demand versus what I feel I can provide. For example, will I feel that I have enough money or enough time or enough energy, right, to accomplish a task? So the understanding of those three drivers is a fundamental second point that the Quantum Door offers that's really important. So I really want to give that framework, that basis, so that you're really equipped. So now you might be asking, so what do I do instead? So here you go. So what you need to understand is the basic spirit indicator number one, tension. What do I mean by tension? Tension is basically, you need to understand that tension is revealing anytime there is a conflict, a gap between your authentic desire and your reality, right? And that reality, meaning basically, is driven by an illusion, and the illusion will be coming from the drivers, right? And so you are not able to see your true reflection because of illusions that are on your way, like a dusty mirror. Illusions interfere for you to see your true reflection, and that causes misalignment and pain as a result. So that's why you have tension. Basically, there's an image, a value you're holding onto that is not matching with the reality you are experiencing. So that's where tension arises. So that's very important, critical. That's a basic spirit indicator, tension. The second spirit indicator that I want you need to understand is that concept of understanding the difference between burnout and stress. Because burnout is extended period of stress that feel as though it cannot be improved, right? And if stress is short-lived or tied to a specific goal, it's most likely not harmful. But if it goes further, that really can impact you, right? So here, let me give you a bonus trick. Track your daily tension. Track your daily tension. So is your tension repetitive, right? The stress, is it always overwhelmed? Is it always, what is it? Is it an overwhelmed feeling? Is it frustration, right? Is it anger, right? What is that tension always materializing in your daily life? You got to track that, right? So if during a day, at the end of a day, look at yourself. Where did you had some of the outbursts, some of the moment where you felt you were really off balance, right? So do that. So in that, the bonus way of looking at this is what? So work-related burnout, we mentioned it was 3 factors: high exhaustion, high cynicism, and low professional efficacy, right? So those 3 big determinants of burnout. Look at yourself when you look at the end of the day. High exhaustion, look at the 3 areas: physically, mentally, emotionally. From 1 to 10, each of those 3 areas, where do you rank yourself? If it's 5, it's okay, but if you reach 7 and up, in each those exhaustion, it means 2 days in a row, it means there is something you need to look at. Sounds good? Now, similarly, look at the cynicism. Are you losing some compassion? Look at yourself, ask yourself. Are you having some argument with people often or twice during a day with the same person? That will mean you might be looking at that. And then the low professional efficacy. How do you feel about that, right? So those are the area you look at it. And I know really I share enough here, and I really want to really, share more with you. But if you want to know more and continue this conversation with me, please sign up to our brand new community, Free Souls. And you will get access to more tips and relevant answers to your real problems. The link is my comment below. And also, I'm making myself available. If you have any issue you want me to talk about, you can submit them in the comments below, or you can request specific video topics by logging onto www.thequantumdo.com/video. So before I leave you today, I really think that it is important for us to think about the burnout. Otherwise, it always leads to chronic experiences. So I hope this serves you, as hopefully you're able to see now, to understand when you experience burnout, because it always can be fuzzy, right? People always can confuse stress and being burnout. But now I hope, and I'm sure you can understand, right? And the different, manifest symptoms of burnout. It's not only related to work, even though that's the main part of it, right? But we also have parental burnout or romantic burnout. But let's talk about the work. As people work longer hours because of a rising cost for living, the stress of just making ends meet is enough to put a lot of stress on people. So when you add workplace stress in the mix, including those stressors created by a greater addition of technology into every aspect of our working lives, it becomes harder and harder to let the daily stressor go. Right? Over time, what it does, it builds up and lead to burnout. So, and the challenge is if burnout are not handled properly and on time, it leads to more severe crises like loss of income, marital issues, relationship strained, which can spiral down to suicide for some people that are feeling helpless and not wanting to ask for help. That's why I'm here to provide you a different angle that is non-traditional as an applied spirit coach that will allow you to create sustainable change for you and your family. That's why I'm glad I'm here. As always, failure is a necessary prerequisite for human excellence. Till next time, live your truth. Coach Soul out.